All right, here we are. If you don't know me, my name is Marc, and I am known on YouTube as Truepokerdealer. I teach people to be poker dealers. I've been in casinos since 2007, and currently you can find me dealing poker at Texas Card House. I've been out of the game for 5 years, being an entrepreneur, and I got back into it to get my hands a little bit wet, or my feet wet and my hands dirty is what I should have said. Little bit late starting. I do this every Tuesday, just about. I'm here though, better late than never, and I'm pretty excited about being here for some QA. Reminder to everybody: always happy during any of these sessions to answer questions, whatever questions you guys have. I find that to make these sessions, these live streams, go really smoothly, so I can really focus on what somebody's interested in and just sort of free speak. I did also prepare a little bit, so in the downtime I've got some good stuff to talk through. I took a trip down to Austin, Texas for the very first time. I had never been there. I went there to visit friends and family, and while I was there, I did very briefly stop at TCH Austin, Texas Card House in Austin. I think there's a handful of rooms out there, but that's the brand that I'm at, so I wanted to go check it out, and it was really cool stopping by there. Joe W says, "Yep, from UK, Joe and Claire." Hey, Joe and Claire, how you guys doing? Thank you for jumping in the chat. You guys are first today, first ones to get me to say hi. Super happy to have you here. Farron says, "Thanks for doing these." Well, you're welcome. Thanks for jumping in. And I've said this before. I feel like I'm spending time with you guys, and I enjoy that very much. And I'm always curious to see what pops up. I think every single time I've ever done one of these, I think I can say that truthfully. There's been something that has been really exciting for me to talk through and think through and all that. Joe says first, woohoo. Yep. I mean, that's cool, right? That's pretty fun. You were the first one. So I stopped at Texas Card House Austin. I didn't stop and play. I was just there to see it. I was sort of driving back from Austin to Dallas, and it was convenient enough for me to go out of my way to go check it out. And I had originally thought that was the location where it all started for Texas Card House in Austin, and I was informed by the floor staff that it was Austin where Texas Card House first had a room, but it wasn't that location. It is a beautiful room out there. They had a lot of games going. I wasn't sure what to expect. I don't really know what the other cities' poker scenes are like. I just know Dallas at this point, but so that was pretty cool. And then on the way back, I stopped at a poker room in Waco, Texas. I'm curious if anybody that's watching knows anything about Waco poker. I had never even heard of Waco, Texas until I got to Dallas, and it was on one of the signs out here on the highway for like a direction you can go toward Waco. Apparently it's 2 hours from Dallas, and I did stop in a poker room there because someone mentioned that I should check it out. It's called Hot Social Club. It's sort of a funny name for a poker room. When they first told me to check out Hot Social Club, I was all excited. That was sort of a joke. It sounds like something that might be sexual or something like that, but it's a poker room, so I was like, oh, okay. And you sort of go up some stairs, and then they've got, it opens up into a poker room. And I'm told they do this in Houston. When I first walked into this poker room, they made me turn around sort of on display in the room and get like a security guard with a metal detector swipe me and all that stuff. I didn't know, so I literally faced him and went like this, and he's like, "Dude, turn around. That's too personal." That type of thing. He said it with a joking nature, but he's like, "Why are you not turning around? Don't you get it?" And I'm like, "No, I don't get it. I've never done this before in a poker room. I've been in lots of poker rooms, and I've never had any metal detecting of any type." I thought that was fascinating. I think, from what I heard from people later, though, I think that they probably learned that from Houston, where that's apparently done. Sort of fascinating. It makes me wonder, should everyone have that done to them when they walk into a poker room? I don't know. Maybe it's a good idea, and it just felt weird to me because it was new. Maybe everybody there is used to it. I really don't know. But anyway, I thought that was interesting. If anyone has any comments about the poker scene in Waco, I'd be curious to hear it because I know nothing about it there. I've at least heard what it's like in Austin and heard what it's like in Houston to a degree. I've never heard anything about what poker's like in Waco. So yeah, but again, I am here to answer your questions. So, I see there's some people that are sort of starting to join. So if you guys have, if y'all have any questions for me, I'm never going to be able to do that smoothly. But if there are any questions for me about anything related to dealing poker, my experiences in poker, stuff not related to poker, whatever you want to ask me, chat me up, feel free to just hit me up, and you'll either get a laugh from people watching, a laugh from me, or if it's a real serious topic about poker, then we'll dive in as deep as it makes sense to go. So let's see, what else did I have on my list? Other than traveling a bit this weekend, which, by the way, Austin as a city is pretty cool. I wish they had major sports teams, but they have some unbelievable views. I went to eat at a restaurant called the Oasis. Man, overlooking the Colorado River was insane. And I also went to a place called Mount Bonnell, I think, where they have this overlook out there that's just like these views that reminded me of Washington State. The trees aren't as big, but it was nice to look at. I did not know Texas had stuff like that, where there's very, very big drops and beautiful overlooks. So that was cool to experience Texas like that. I sort of had it in my head that it was a bit more flat out here. So let's see, I dealt poker yesterday, and there's a couple things that were sort of interesting that came up that I feel like chatting about would be fun. First, there was a very pretty girl playing at my table, and so I was sort of making jokes to myself. I'm going to be honest, I'll entertain myself sometimes. And I heard her laugh and look at her phone, and I literally did not think she was paying any attention. And I said, "Oh, share with the group. What was so funny?" She says, "No, I was laughing at what you said." And I was like, "Oh, that's really cool. Appreciated that." So she's like, she won a hand, and then she tipped $5, and it wasn't a huge pot. And it happened like 3 times where she won hands and tipped $5 each. And here's what I want to say: if you're a pretty girl, please come to my table, laugh at my jokes, and tip me $5 a hand, right? Like those are really cool feelings. I'm not saying she was into me or anything. I'm just saying it's really fun to be a male dealer and receive that, because girls get that all the time, and the guys don't really get that very much. There's very few women that come in and play, period, and it was just it's really cool. So to all the women out there, please come and play poker, laugh at the dealers' jokes, and tip the dealers $5 a hand, and I'll say thank you to all of you in advance. That type of thing can sort of make your day when you're a dealer and you're just not expecting it. Gustavo, I'm so sorry, I don't know how to say it, but I think it's Gustavo, said, "Hey Mark, what's happening? You up for that TCH cruise?" That's the emoji that was put there. I believe that I will be on it without committing to it. I'll put it that way. I think it's in March of next year. So that's pretty far off for me, entrepreneur. I couldn't even commit to my kids for that far off in advance for like going on a cruise with them if they were asking me. But I think there's a really good chance I'll be there, especially depending on whether or not I'm going to still be working at TCH at that time. It's a long time from now is really the answer. Hit Girl says, "Just bought custom chips for our cash game in our room, and I'm disappointed. Do you have a company you'd recommend for custom chips?" I will say this: hit me up in an email. Let me see. I'm putting my email here. Wait, no, I think you've reached out to me. Well, send me an email with that question, and I will get you hooked up with somebody who can help. So the real answer is, it's really hard to get really good custom chips in Texas, from what I understand, because of the little bit of the confusion around licensing and stuff like that. I think a lot of the vendors just steer clear, but there's some back doors or something like that. It's all legal stuff, but there's some vendors that make good products that I could probably figure out a path for you to buy from. So reach out to me and then I'll give you that answer. The Video Gamer Consortium, oh perfection, yes. Sounds like you've peaked. I assume you're talking about having a pretty girl tipping me. Or maybe Jason is saying that when he deals, he's always getting the pretty girl sitting at his table and tipping him $5 a hand. And if that's the case, I'm happy for you, man. Felt pretty happy. Captain Underpants said, "Hey Mark, I got to practice pitching at TCH. I sucked. Cards kept flipping up." The cards at Texas Card House, from a dealing standpoint, they're a little bit thinner than, other than the live stream cards. Those are thick because they're RFID. But the cards at Texas Card House are on the thin side for sure. They get the job done, but yeah, you want to, if you're pitching, sort of like pitching like this, you want to turn your wrist up a little bit more. It will reduce that risk, but it takes practice. Jason says, "I get okay tips or pretty girls at the table, never both." So I'm laughing because that's so relatable, right? Like, I was talking to, you guys have probably seen Jazz. I've interviewed her a couple times. She's my ex, and she's a poker dealer, and she's talked about like being a pretty girl at the table as a dealer. And for her, it's like she'll sit down at a table and there's, I want to say 8 or 9 guys that are trying to flirt with her in all these different ways, right? Like every guy at the table is all of a sudden interested in making her happy, tipping her, like all that stuff. And it's just that energy is constantly coming to her, and the money comes with her too. Like, she beats me every single shift and I do pretty well. Well, I think it's fun. Like, once in a while I get somebody like that at the table. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, Jason, you're totally on point, right? You get okay tips or pretty girls at the table, never both. And it wasn't just that too. Like, laughing at my jokes, come on, is that my love language or what, right? Like, just laugh at my jokes all day, you'll make me happy. But don't humor me, of course. It has to be authentic, only if you actually like it. Let's see. I had an interesting pot that I dealt the other day. This was also yesterday. I sat down at a 1-2 no limit game. Now, the 1-2 no limit games, they often have a bomb pot. Actually, it's sort of the tradition. I assume this is nowadays in a lot of poker rooms. Texas Card House, it's definitely the tradition. Whenever there's a dealer change, the first hand for the new dealer is a double board bomb pot. And in the 1-2 no limit games, that is everybody puts $5 out, and we go right to the 2 flops. And in this particular hand, I got it to the point where, let me see, on the turn, I think it was on the turn, there was a 4-liner. It was 10, 8, 7, 6 on the board. Not in that order, but that's what the cards were. And so I had 5 players. Usually you don't get 5 people to make it to the river. I had 5 players that got to showdown. 4 of them had a 9, and the other one won the bottom. And so that was fascinating because I had to split the pot first. By the way, if you're out there and you deal double board anything where half the pot goes to the top board and half the pot goes to the bottom board, please treat that like a split pot game in terms of stacking the chips. Do stack the pot for that, because it just saves everybody after. You're going to be chopping that frequently. So I see sometimes even the dealers at Texas Card House don't realize they should be stacking that pot, and it's actually on my list of things to mention. But for you out there, treat a split board game like a split pot game. That being said, you don't want to start stacking a pot as soon as the players say they want to run it twice. Just run it twice and stack it after the fact. It is what it is. But for a double board bomb pot. But anyway, yeah, so for that I had to split the pot. The extra chip went to the top board, okay? And the top board was the one with the 4-liner. So I've got the extra chip plus that half of the pot. I take the other half of the pot, give it to the player that won the bottom, just because it's so much easier to do that way. Then I take what's left and I split it into 4 equal amounts. Just interesting pot, right? Like, stuff like that happens. Let's see, what else did I have happened? There was an entire table. This is wild, by the way. Like, man, these gamblers are savage at Texas Card House sometimes. An entire table of $25 double board PLO bomb pots. That's all the table was. Every single hand, double board bomb pot, $25 a piece, pot limit Omaha. And so they're potting constantly. They've got their 4 cards. Everybody's seeing these flops too. So normally in PLO, some players are relatively selective about their holdings going into the pre-flop. They're just getting rid of hands. They're not playing these hands. In a double board bomb pot, just in case somebody doesn't know, the way it works is you deal out to every single player. You collect all of the antes. They're essentially antes that come in, $25 a person in this case. Then you bring both flops. So everybody's starting from the moment that both flops are brought. And with PLO, that's a lot going on for everybody. And it was a fascinating table to deal. It really was. Stacks were getting in, 2 to 4K deep pretty frequently. I might have only gotten through like 8 hands, 9 hands in that half hour there. And it was like stuff like that is pretty fun and engaging. And it's also fun and engaging because the chances at a table like that of getting bigger tips are a little bit higher as well. So that's fun too. But I wish, I left that table and I was telling the next table about it. It was a 1-2 no limit table that I had gone to. I'm telling them about it, and like they're hearing me describe it, and someone's like, "Oh, you mean that table everyone's standing around?" Like whatever was going on at that table when I left, it's just more and more action. People were watching it probably because there was so much going on. Hit Girl says, "Wow, yeah, it's sort of crazy like that." All right, another thing. So I had an interesting dynamic where, let me see, about halfway through my shift, a new dealer that's brand new, an experienced dealer that's brand new to our poker room was the person who I was tapping out. And like happens frequently in the poker world, this individual who passed an audition had a bunch of stuff about dealing in our room that they didn't know what they were supposed to do. It's like, yeah, you can deal, you'll figure it out type of thing. You're not going to hurt the customer experience that much, but we're going to throw you in and you get some basic explanation, but there's a lot of little habits to train, even with an experienced dealer at a new room. So I was following this dealer, meaning I get to the table as they're finishing their last hand of their down at the table, and I'm tapping in and I let them know, okay, I'm coming in next hand, and I'm watching them for a little bit. And there's a bunch of stuff that I received, okay? So the first thing that I received, I sit down at a table and I see they had 800 in green in their bank, plus some other chips, and the 800 in green was completely spaced off in hundreds instead of in a stack of 500. It was like 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100. I might have said it wrong, but you know what I'm saying. There was only 3 or 4 tables I followed them. Another time they had maybe $10 in white when I got there, and the fill light wasn't on. Another thing that they did was they were keeping their tips in the well, coloring them up, and then putting them in their tip box at the end of the down, which, believe it or not, that is done in some rooms. It's much more of a home game thing, but there are some places that actually do that. I'm not a fan of it. Another thing that they did was they were sort of bringing the flop in a way that to me looked less professional. It still got the job done, but And the thing I want to say is it's actually real easy as a dealer that's following somebody doing that to get outraged. It's real easy to be like, what the hell is this that I have to follow and deal with? And I've seen dealers do that in the past with this expectation of perfection and this lack of awareness of reality of how things go. The reason I'm bringing this up is these are really easy things to politely and helpfully communicate to that dealer, okay? So you don't have to do it in that moment. The way that I sort of did it was I prioritized what I thought was super important for them to know as I was tapping them out. So, for example, keeping the tips in the well, I felt like they could legitimately get in trouble for that. So I whispered to them as they were getting tapped out of one table when I noticed it, hey, here, we don't keep any tips in the well at all. When you get it, drop it in your box. And they said to me, and this is a reasonable thing, they said to me, oh, I thought I saw someone coloring up tips. And I said to them, so we've actually received communication from the management. You're not supposed to do that. So if that's the case, it is what it is, but that's not something you want to start doing. That type of thing, having those conversations. the thing with like leaving me with a little bit of white left when I get to the table, like I can get a fill. It's not a big deal. Like there's a lot. I know what it's like to sit at specifically at this room and start getting caught up on all the procedure. And the green chips, for example, where they had them lammered off 100 at a time for $800 worth of green. Like I just pull them all out and fix it. Like who cares? It's not a big deal is my point. It's easy to be outraged when you're following somebody, but it's much, much better for everybody if you can create connection with that person and be helpful. And, look, if they start responding to it with this like bad attitude or something, which this person was super sweet. She was very sweet. But if they start responding with this bad attitude, that's one thing, right? But you don't have to get outraged. You can help somebody and be really kind to them. Chuck says, brand new baby poker dealer here. Love it. And the excitement in there. Curious if you're willing to shout out what room you work at, please let us know. And we'll all ask you some questions about what it's like there, or at least I will. But yeah, I mean, speaking to you, Chuck, how would you feel if a dealer behind you was tapping you out and was like secretly outraged that you were doing things that weren't perfect? Like, nobody needs to deal with that. Help each other. So those are sort of the notes that I had here. Definitely looking for some people to hit me up, ask me some questions. I guess I could think through some other stuff that happened in my last dealing shift. I did when I got to work. Let me see. I started at 10:50. It was Monday on 4th of July weekend, so everything was closed, and therefore a lot more people were playing than normal. And I dealt without a break from 10:50 when I started a tournament. I sat down for a tournament, and I got my first break at like 10 past 3 or something like that. So it's a solid 4 hours and 15 minutes ish. And man, I gotta say, like, they show the strings up on the screen. Poker Atlas helps with that, so I could see how many more tables I had until a break, and they kept popping them in front of him too. And when that happens, I like to say to just try to stay as relaxed as you can. Right? Stay as relaxed as you can at the table, and good things will happen, and have that good energy. And it's okay to slow down a little bit if you need to, because you don't want to be you don't want it to feel like your head's exploding. It's okay. And I normally would never say this, but if you're on table number 7 or 8 in a string dealing poker, it's okay to walk a little bit more slowly and just give yourself that second when you get tapped out of one table and you go to the next. You don't need to feel like you have to run and rush to that next table. Like, you're going to get your hands out. You're going to get your tips. You're going to get everything you need to get. I noticed that while I was in tournament, the dealer that was pushing me at one point got tapped out of a game and ran to the bathroom, and I ended up getting stuck there for an extra hand, which I didn't make money on, and I would have been making money in the cash game that I was about to go to. And I just sort of thought to myself, like, I wish that they knew I was on tournament, but at the same time, there's like 6 tables behind me. They know that they're not going to get a break for a long time, and this is what has to happen for them to get through this string. So it sort of is what it is, It's just, I like being accepting and patient with people instead of expecting things to be perfect all the time, because it's impossible to be perfect all the time. But yeah, I thought that was sort of worth sharing because it made sense to share. Chuck said, I told the table the other night, constructive criticism is welcome. Yeah, it's ironic, though. If you tell poker players to give you constructive criticism, it's possible they're going to give you criticism that is constructive in terms of what their knowledge base provides, but is not actually useful in terms of what you should be doing. Sometimes it works. Sometimes they're very helpful, but sometimes it's not great. Hit Girl says, we're starting a 24-week pot builder next week. Bi-weekly tournament, $150. With $100 going to the final. At the end, first place gets their buy-in to the WSOP main event plus hotel and flights. Second gets the same but lesser buy-in. Well, you did talk about wanting chips for that. The chip vendors that I would be able to hook you up with will not get you chips quickly enough for something like that. Just as a heads up. And then Hit Girl says, do you have any big tourneys we could run a qualifier for? Well, I definitely appreciate that question. I would love to. Wait, let me see. Bi-weekly tournament, $150 with $100 going to the final. Gotcha. At the end, first place gets their buy-in to the WSOP main event plus hotel and flights. So is this is a thing where you have to show up week after week in order to get into the main? It sounds like. No, we have lots of chips, just upgrading for customs. Oh, okay, cool. I mean, I would love to play in this. If you guys want to fly me out there, I'll play in this in a heartbeat, unless it's multiple days. I'm sorry, I'm saying that because it's true, but I also hate asking for anything. Oh, the same 10 players. Oh, that's even cooler. Wow. So you guys are just playing regularly. I see. So you play regularly, a certain amount of money, and instead of just Chuck says, can I smash the like? Yes, you can smash the like button. Thank you for liking my video. Anybody that ever likes my video, I appreciate it. Hit Girl says we're in Canada. So first of all, I want to give you a lot of props for something. You are enjoying the game of poker regularly with the same 10 people. And instead of it just being a regular game, you're making it about something where your entire group can root for somebody. That is awesome. I love hearing that. Everybody gets a piece of the winner if they cash in the main. I mean, that's even better. You're a genius. I hope that you think of yourself that way too. That is absolutely genius. Imagine if every single home game in the world just used this format where you know how much you guys are buying in every single time. Let's make it about something awesome. Genius. Very simple and genius. You guys are there for the social dynamic probably you all care about poker as well. Send somebody to the main. Why not? That's just so cool. I'm really happy to hear that. Do I have any qualifiers? What's the minimum buy-in that you would want in order for that to be a yes? I guess that's my question. And if you're talking about something like Texas Card House in Dallas, I can answer that. They do run tournaments. Like the last thing that they did was a $600 buy-in, so it's not huge, right? But there was about 600 something thousand in the prize pool. Before that, they did an $800 buy-in and then hit 1.2 million. I should be saying I'm not. It's just I feel like I have a True Poker Dealer brand. They have a Texas Card House brand, even though I participate in it a lot. I should mention too, I'm really excited. Either this coming Tuesday or the next Tuesday, I'm going to be interviewing Greg Potter, who is one of the two voices of the Texas Card House live stream in Dallas. He does a great job both bringing excitement and analysis to these games. I asked him, hey, are you down to do a live stream with me and I'll interview you and we'll talk through some of this stuff, and he got some permission and we're going to do it either this coming Tuesday or the one after. I'll put a thumbnail up with the details of that soon, but really excited about that too. The smash the like button made me think of it because they're constantly saying they have like goals. They want this many likes on the video. I don't really know why they're pushing so hard for likes. I guess it makes it seem like it's cooler, but that's what that made me think of. But yeah, so what type of buy-in, Hit Girl, what type of buy-in amount would be the minimum for you to want to send somebody for a tournament? I'm curious about that. But that's a really cool thing. And so what kind of setup do you have? Is it just one poker table at your place? The Video Gamer Consortium says it pushes the algorithm. You know what? I appreciate that feedback. So smash the like button, I guess, is what I'm supposed to say. I hate like inauthentically selling stuff like that though. I like just sort of chilling personally. Hit Girl says, well, we're an underground room. We run cash 3 times a week, and now I've added this pot builder. It's something I've been waiting for a long time, so I'm excited. Gotcha. Captain Underpair says, Greg is awesome. Love his commentary. Yeah, he really is. He does a great job. And this is sort of his first time doing stuff like this too, but I mean, he's the one that's there, like chatting with Brad Owen. He's the one that, like, him and Ben. I haven't spoken to Ben. The only reason I'm interviewing Greg instead of Ben is because I know Greg. I work with him. Greg, in addition to doing the commentary, is also a dealer and a player at Texas Card House in Dallas, so I know him. But he does this with Ben. But the two of them do a great job, for sure. I was gonna say something, I forget it. Whatever. This happens a lot. Hit Girl says 3 tables, but only 2 max now because of COVID. Gotcha. That's exciting to think about it. Still waiting for the answer for what the minimum buy-in would be for a event that you could potentially send somebody to. Very curious what the answer to that is. Video Gamer Consortium says, hey guys, if you appreciate True Poker Dealer, show your appreciation and help him out with the likes. Don't make him ask. That's very nice. And then Video Gamer, it's like you watch how they say it. I appreciate that. And then you said 11 watching. We need 11 likes minimum. I appreciate that too. Well, you did get me to read the comment that is asking for the likes for the algorithm, I guess. That's pretty cool. Hit Girl says probably like 1,100 buy-in to go. We have to convert to American money so we don't lose value. LOL. The Video Gamer Consortium says, I do promotion. I know how it is. Yeah, and your cap use was also on point. True Poker Dealer is in caps, and Don't Make 'em Ask is in caps, and we need 11 likes minimum is in caps. And wow, it's working. You guys are really cool. Thank you to the Video Gamer Consortium, and thank you to the people who are liking it. It's very kind. I feel appreciative and humbled. I do promotion. I know how it is. Yeah. Chuck says it's true. Video Gamer Consortium says, there it is. We doubled the likes, but you guys can do better. Okay, it's up to 7 now. I like how we're pretending like there's, more than 14 people watching, but you guys are awesome. He's still going. Bam, bam, bam. 3 more, 1 more. It's up to 8. Very much appreciated. Chuck said, told you smash the like. I'm humbled and appreciative, and I did the awkward put my hands together in a bow thing. All right, so Hit Girl, I will send you. Let me see. I'll send you an email with anything. I'll ask Victor if they got anything coming up, and I know that they have the Texas Card House cruise that was already brought up in here. The TCH cruise, I think it's in March, and I'm pretty excited. I really hope I get to go on the TCH cruise in March. I never got to go on any of the Ante-Up cruises. My friends would talk about them. I have heard about these Norwegian cruises that I don't know if they're still going on after COVID, but before COVID, any Norwegian cruise, basically, you can win a seat into an $1,100 buy-in. And it's what would happen in these Norwegian cruises, you'd win a seat, and then there'd be all these people that would win seats and cruises. Sorry. So you win an $1,100 buy-in with a $500,000 prize pool. And you also, for these Norwegian cruises before COVID, you would win your cruise package as well. And so then every single winner would get bought into this tournament. You could also buy in separately if you wanted. And all these people would be on this poker cruise, basically. And from what I understand, 1/3 of the prize pool were no-shows, so there's all this dead money sitting in there too, which is pretty crazy. Captain Underpair says March 20th to 27th I'm registered. You know what? I'm gonna look this up. Cruise. I'm sort of curious now. Maybe this is the right answer, right? Okay, I gotta share this screen for a sec. Let's do it. I'm going to share the screen, get this stuff on here, and where do I put this so that it shows up properly? All right, I got to get myself out of the way though. Whoops, that's my background. My little Bellagio background's leaving. Can't do that. All right. So here I am. Nope, I'm still too big. Now I'm curious. You know what? It's I haven't really looked at this. I sort of kept promising them I would. There's no time like the present. So it says March 20th to 27th, 2022 of next year. Join Texas Card House for a 7-night adventure on Liberty of the Seas, Royal Caribbean. So I have been on many Royal Caribbean cruises, and I like the food on Royal Caribbean as much as any cruise line, and that's a selling point for me. I'm so happy already to see that this is not Carnival. I'm sorry, Carnival, but I've been on your cruises before, and I don't like your food. I haven't been on Norwegian. I've heard it's not as good. Royal Caribbean, I'm a yes. So that's already a big yes. It says we cruise from Galveston, Texas to Roatan, Costa Maya, and Cozumel. Additionally, Texas Card House will have a full poker room set up with planned tournaments and cash games. I mean, that sounds pretty cool. I feel like they're going to want me to work on it. It is what it is. Is there any link to a schedule of any type? I don't see it. So it says departs 2 days at sea during the day in a place called Roatan. Then we've got Costa Maya the next day, Cozumel. I've been to Cozumel on cruises, day at sea. All right. And all right, well, here's what we got. So what are we looking at here? Beginner's lesson. So oh, I see. For anyone that wants to sort of learn how to play poker, so they have this tournament. You get this many chips. Main event right here is 11 a.m. So the thing that I would say is send somebody on the cruise maybe. And give them like the full spectrum of buy-ins. I mean, if I'm in your group, if I get to go on a poker cruise and I get armed with all the buy-ins for each one of these tournaments, I think that's pretty cool, right? But I guess it's not quite as exciting as there being like an $1,100+ buy-in tournament. So I'm just sort of thinking about it. Chuck says, gotta roll all the blessings. Appreciate you. Appreciate both you and Video Gamer Consortium for pushing the likes. I gotta say, I wish that there were bigger tournaments on here, though. That's just sort of me. One re-entry, $1,000 added. So they're not 100% sure what they're going for. It looks like, but these tournaments look pretty good. They have some promos in order to get people $2,000 closing, and then they're closed the last day. You're holding your first 1-2-5 PLO day Saturday. I'm excited. Should be a great tip day as pots will be huge. Ooh, I'm going to quiz you. Quiz, Hit Girl. What is the first raise in 1-2-5 PLO? And by the way, I'm assuming that what you mean is $1, $2 blinds, and it's 5 to limp. To enter a pot, it's $5 minimum. So what is the first raise when nobody's entered the pot in 1-2 with a $5 limp PLO? The first max raise, the first pot size raise is what I should say. Let's see. By the way, there's not exactly one right answer for this. Different schools of thought can be applied. There's one answer that I like the best. Let's see. Hit Girl says 15. Gary says 10. Appreciate both of those answers. PLO. I like it. The answer that I prefer to go with, what you do is, Gary says 20. The answer that I prefer to go with, so the two right possible answers in the industry are considered 15 and 20. I like 15 better, and I'll tell you why. Some places say with each blind you round it up to 5. And if that's the case, in this case, you're rounding it up to 5 because it's a $5 min. In this case, rounding each blind up to 5 would mean that you have, you would go to 20. But I think that's too much. I think it's much better to take all the loose change, which would be anything less than a full increment of betting in a poker game, which in this case is 5. Take all the loose change and round it together up to that full amount. So you'll see sometimes there will be, we only round up the big blind in my house. Interesting. I mean, the thing I want to say is, okay, I would say you round up, it's a better practice in my opinion to round up the loose change together to the next increment up. And I don't think it's that hard to do, honestly, because pre-flop is really the only time you have to do any of that. And once you've finished doing it pre-flop, all the rest of it, you're just using the rounded up number in your head. You don't have to do it again or anything like that. because no loose change can really make its way into the pot. So just as a couple quick examples, if you have $1, $2 blinds, if you're taking that as $3, you're rounding it up to 5, and then the amount to pot, the maximum raise would be 15. Similarly, if you're, and this comes up sometimes, right? If you've got $1, $2 blinds and a player that has a miss blind button comes in to post their $3, which would be 2 that's live and 1 that goes to the middle. Now, if somebody wants to go to pot immediately, you're taking the dead small, which is 1, the big blind that's posted, or I'm sorry, the small blind, the big blind, that's 3, the posted big blind for the player that missed their blinds, and the dead small, that's another 3. So that's 6 total. You're taking that and just rounding that up to a total of 10. I think that works really well. Let's see. Day says, any tips? Oh, it says, hi. Hey, what's going on? Any tips on opening my own live poker club? Well, I mean, there's a lot to be said there. Let's see. Things that I would want to know in order to be able to give you advice. Number 1, have you ever worked in a poker room at any level? Have you been a poker director, a manager, like a director, a shift manager, a supervisor, a dealer, a chip runner, a brush, a cashier? Like, have you done anything? If you've just been a poker player, it's going to be really hard. I run into this a lot, actually. I've had more people than I can count on one hand reach out to me within the last 6 months or so, saying that they want to open a poker room and they have lots of experience, 25 years as a poker player, and I'm just like, oh God, that's going to be so hard for them. They just don't know. So yeah, it sort of depends. If you're talking about and it also depends what state, like you have to do it the right way so that it can be legal in your area. If you're talking about, Day says, haha, okay, curious what that means. Maybe you're responding to what Gary said, which is have a lot of capital. If you don't have money to burn, don't even try. Yeah, it's hard to tell exactly what that response is to, but let's assume that you do have experience running it and you're sort of just like reaching out to me for what I think. Day says, I have the legal stuff under control, just basic tips. What is your experience with actually working in poker, though? That's a really important question that I would need answered. By the way, you can take this offline too. If you want to ask this question, you can send me an email and I can talk to you about that there. I do consulting for people in your situation, and I'm usually deciding whether or not I want to take somebody on to do consulting with them depending on their situation. But I guess the thing I want to say is, you're saying I have the legal stuff under control. I'm happy to trust you and believe that to a degree, but I've heard that so many times from people that had even had lawyers look at stuff and were incredibly confident, and it might not be as simple as you think. So, like I said, I'll trust you in that, and I won't talk about legal, but there's still stuff to talk about there if you actually wanted to do that. Let me see. My basic advice, the core advice that I would give. Turn it into a well-oiled machine as your primary focus and build from there. Don't worry about the experiences that other poker rooms haven't been able to give their players, that people say, man, you should really do this, like have great food and all this other stuff. Anything that is not the absolute core for playing and running poker games, anything that's outside of that, let it go to start out. Again, this depends on how much experience you have, though, because you might be able to bring some of that stuff in if you have a lot of experience. But focus just on making it a well-oiled machine that does the thing that it's supposed to do, and then build on that. That's my basic advice. Things like having dealers that know what they're doing, having processes in place to handle the challenges that come up for the game of poker itself. This is a very, very, very good question and a very, very, very long answer. You guys can see it's starting to rain outside here, and the light that I had was actually just opening my shade. So now that it's raining, I have a skylight in here too, so when it rains you can actually hear that. Let's see. Gary said, if you have the action games there, rest will fall into place. I mean, that's true. It's just some of the advice I could give would be somewhat sophisticated. Oh yeah, let me stop sharing this because we're sort of done with this cruise. Hit Girl says, don't bend the rules for certain players even if they're your big ones. I mean, yeah, you want to create a culture, in my opinion, that is sort of aware and at the same time, this is bugging me. You want to create a culture that's aware and at the same time is not getting rid of some of this. So it's just me in the corner like this. What am I trying to say here? Don't get too hung up on the rules is something that I would say here. You can see I'm in front of a secret green screen that you're not supposed to know about, but it's so dark here and I haven't set the lights up that this is what you get now. Just because it started raining out here, it's funny. Have dealers that know how to run their games and know how to enforce the rules without pissing off the players that have most of the money. That's something that I would say is pretty valuable. It's absolutely pouring outside right now. Let's see if I can show you guys this. Like, can you see? No, I don't think you can actually see out there. Oh well. Pouring out right now. Yeah, just it's adjusting for the low light, but what are you gonna do? My green screen. Let's see, what else would I say? If I were opening a room, I would say get the right amount of chips. Like, figure out how much you're supposed to have. Get the right equipment. Get gaming suede for your felt. Make sure that you have the right foam underneath. Make sure that you get the right size and shape of table. Don't get speed cloth or speed felt or whatever it's called. That stuff will burn your knuckles. That's why I'm saying, like, do the things you're supposed to do. Get a comfortable chair for the players. Players have to sit there for long periods of time. Make them awesome. That's where you want to put your money, is in your equipment, and make sure that it's really the right stuff. Dealer chairs. The longevity of your dealers are going to depend on the equipment they're using as well. Dealer chairs with no arms. Yeah, that's true. What else? Have let's see. You need dealers with arms. That part's true. It's the chairs with no arms. What I mean by bend the rules is move a big player up the wait list, etc. Yeah, you do want to remember that, a poker player can only make you a certain amount of money, and it doesn't matter which is which. If you have slot machines in your poker room where you've got a couple people that'll come and drop like $100,000 every week, some casinos do treat them differently. But if you don't have anything like that where the amount of money they have matters, having a bigger game doesn't really make a difference for you unless you're raking an insane amount. I did go to my very first underground poker room. I went to, I want to say a week and a half ago or so, and maybe it was less than a week ago. I don't even remember now, but it was sort of fascinating. They were taking 10% up to $25. I was like, oh, this is hard to watch. And I mean, they were doing it right. It was not secret that that's how much they were taking. That's just what the rake was. So, I mean, actually, the games, if you're raking an insane amount like that, you're going to probably want to have bigger games, actually. So maybe people with more money are more valuable, is all I'm trying to say. But it's still not worth it. I totally agree with Hit Girl, by the way. I didn't say this specifically, but I totally agree with Hit Girl. Treat your players give them a rule set that, you can bend when you need to, but don't show the type of favoritism that's going to piss people off. Like, you can do VIP type stuff for people that are there more, and then they get some perks that other people might not. But you want to be very careful about which things you're allowing them to do. Let's see. Gary says, deckmate. Yeah, I mean, getting a shuffle machine could be helpful. You have the dealers there, they're shuffle machines themselves, right? When Mancoman says, when dealing 7-card stud and triple draw type games, do you burn a card for each street still, starting a home game mix and can't find this info? So I actually have, if you join my channel, just click the join button. You can go to the bonus mix game course. You'll see it there. It's the bottom one on the left. And I teach everything about all the mix games. You'd be able to spread these mix games with no problem at all. To answer your question, yes, you do burn a card for each street still. Hit Girl says, oh my God, that's insane. Yeah, she's responding to the $25 max, 10% up to $25 rake. That was absolutely crazy. But you know what? Home games are different. You can... If I'm some of these poker... You might say to yourself, why would any player ever go play at a home game? Because the stuff that's there doesn't exist outside of home, or underground room is what I'm sort of saying for that. But it's because the stuff that's there you can't get access to experiences like that in a regular poker room is why. Let's see. Gary says, yes, you burn. Yeah, planning to open an underground one. All right, cool. Well, Hit Girl says, we rake $1 for every 10, max $5 plus $1 for the bad beat after $20 in the pot. Cool. If you don't have a lot of competition, you can take more. If you have competition, you can't. Life's that simple sometimes. Dave said, those are the tips I was asking for. Good. Glad you got that. There's an endless supply of that stuff, by the way. If you want to run stuff by me, like I said, feel free to email me. I do consulting. I like good poker rooms, although I don't like to get myself involved with anything that's not completely legal. So just mentioning that too. But Man Command says, cheers, dude. All right. Let's see what else. I'm bummed out that it's so dark here. I'm gonna have to set up lights in the future every time. I just got lazy and didn't do it because it looked fine. But here I am. Day says, understandable. Yeah, I mean, you can still send me an email and ask me stuff. So, what else do I have going on here? I don't know. I feel sort of discombobulated because it's so dark in here and raining outside, and I'm in the middle of the stream. That's all I can think about. I like my presentation to be better than this. Day says, elaborate on stuff that you can't get in the regular poker room. Well, the waitresses were sitting on the laps. They were not wearing anything that would not be acceptable at a pool, but they were not wearing a lot, and they were sitting on the laps of the players that were tipping them a lot instead of being waitresses, for one. And I was only there for a brief period of time, and I cannot say with any certainty that anything beyond that went on, but I was catching a vibe that it's just a different thing in that type of underground game. That being said, you know, that's not representative of every underground game. My point in saying that is you don't have to, if you're doing something, this is all I'm trying to say. Okay, I'm not trying to encourage this, but it's just a fact. If you're doing something that's not legal, you can do other things that are not legal, and you're risking the same thing all the way through to a degree. I don't support that. I went and checked it out. I don't see myself going back to this particular underground room. It was a cool experience though, and so that was why I sort of went. But yeah, it's like, you know, if you're at an underground room, you can be underground is what I want to say. I don't know. Let's see. Gary says, what is your feeling on tournaments with big blind ante when a short stack is all in, blind or ante in first? So when they have less than a big blind, or when they don't have the ability to cover both the ante and the big blind. So I have two answers to this. So first, before I answer it, for a little bit of background, the TDA and the WSOP are on opposite ends of the spectrum for this. You know what? I am going to turn the light on. It's like, that's like sort of better, but now it's almost annoying. Whatever. Okay. So the TDA says that the ante takes priority, and if a player is under the gun, and I actually watched their entire explanation on this. If a player is under the gun, it just, like, logically it would just make sense for them to go all in if the next hand they can only win back the amount that they put in, right? So let's say that the big blind is 1,000 and a player has 1,000 left. All right, so you got 1,000 chip left. The big blind's 1,000, the big blind ante is 1,000. If you're playing somewhere according to TDA rules, then the next hand, if you don't play your under the gun hand, the next hand, that 1,000 is going to go in for the ante, and your big blind is 0, and you are unable to win anything from any other players. The WSOP does it the other way around. They just say there's no ante this hand, the big blind has priority, and you can win 1,000 from anybody that calls. So between those two options, I personally like the way the WSOP does it. Why? Because I hate the change that comes as a result of this, where you feel like you need to go all in and you're under the gun hand. The tradition in poker has always been, when you're under the gun, decide, is this hand good enough to play, or do I wait and just gamble on my big blind? And they sort of take that totally out of your choice. And who the hell cares about one ante, one hand? Like, seriously, that's how I think about it. So I like making it the big blind personally, but I personally think, and I really mean this, that it makes way more sense, and I wish the poker industry would change this. I think it makes way more sense to have the small blind post the ante. If the small blind posts the ante, then the big blind gets to go all in and gets to collect from everybody, and the small blind posts the ante in order to get the button. That's sort of how I look at it. I think that it would just work better for the game. The one downside to that is there is not a small blind in every hand, while there is a big blind in every hand, and I get that. And my personal opinion is, I don't care. If there's no small blind, then there's no player in that position that's getting the button. And I think it's totally fine for the game, for those few instances where there's no small blind, for nobody to post an ante. I don't think it hurts anything. I think if the small blind's posting every time, it resolves this issue, and it also makes it so that you post your ante and then you get the button. I personally like that. I do know that the small blind is sometimes also posting the ante in some of the high roller tournaments. I heard them explaining that in the TDA Summit last year. But yeah, that's sort of my answer on that. I think that the TDA's got it wrong in this case, having the big blind go ante first. I think that that's just sticking to the sentiment behind antes too much, and it ruins the this like to me thing that's really meaningful and valuable, where you're deciding when you're under the gun whether you want to go with this hand or not. Let's see. Hopefully that answered you. Day says, how important is it to find a partner to start up an underground poker room? And Hit Girl says, Day, it depends on how often you're going to be there. Yeah, I feel like I have no idea. I'm not really in a position where I can even think about opening an underground room. It's just how I think about it. I will say this. There's a lot to running a poker room. A lot. So the more people that have experience doing it on the highest level, the better. That's all I can say. The Necrons 100 says, have you ever seen instances of fighting off the poker table in a professional, elegant poker game, not underground? I don't understand that question, actually. Have I ever seen instances of fighting off the poker table in a professional, elegant poker game? Are you asking if I've ever seen a fight in a casino poker room? Yeah, I don't know. Joel says the benefits of having security and its cameras where you play poker significantly increases safety and a fair game. Yeah, I mean, even if having surveillance footage, so it's a double-edged sword though. If you're in an underground room, if you're going to do underground stuff, do you really want that on camera? I don't know. I'm not getting into this, honestly, but you know, I would imagine you want good security there too. That whole thing is sort of scary just to think about. Stan says, if you can't cover the ante and blind, they should throw your chips in the trash, in my humble opinion. I mean, I get the macho alpha way of talking about this is to say, like, you know, what do you even care? Who cares? What does it matter? You got one chip left and it's a big blind. The only problem with that is we've all seen people who have actually won tournaments that at one point had one chip left. So if it wasn't for that, I'd totally agree with you. But realistically, you can still win the tournament, and we've all seen it. So I mean, yeah, it's just you can still win. So it isn't worth throwing it in the trash. It is actually still worth playing. The Necron says, sorry for the bad wording, players fighting on a poker table. Occasionally, yeah, it's come up a few times. Not as much as people think about it based on... So I've seen old men yelling at each other and standing up and like... When people are heated, they actually do a terrible job of regular things. Like, imagine two old men in their 60s, 70s or something like that, getting real heated and starting to shake and getting angry with each other and standing up and getting ready to fight. But when they stand up, they accidentally fall over because they're not good at standing up at that age. Like, I've seen stuff like that. And it's really hard to keep a straight face when people do stuff like that. In terms of actual fighting with players, I've only seen somebody take a swing off the table. I haven't seen them do it at the actual table. I've never seen people sitting at a table and actually fighting. I watched the video like a lot of you guys on my channel watched the people in Aria, but even that, it wasn't like at the table. It's hard to do that at the table, honestly. That's why people like want to get up and leave. You know, money might fly, stuff like that. I really don't ever see it. Let's see. Day says, Hit Girl, that's true, thanks. Peter says, I've been dealing in home games and back rooms for 10 years. Cool. Gary says, in a tournament when a player is on a smoke break and you happen to miss deal and they come back in when you start the deal up, are they eligible to play that hand? Maybe some newbie dealers will learn. In a tournament when a player is on a smoke break, you happen to miss deal and they come back in when you start the deal up, are they eligible to play that hand? So there's the real answer and the answer that I would go with. The real answer is I forget. It's actually addressed in the TDA or WSOP rules somewhere. The only scenario where I think I would actually need to know that, if I'm being honest, is if I was a floor. I would have to learn these rules intimately. That being said, the real answer is I don't, unless a poker player at the table objects, if you start the new hand over again, I would just deal him in. If I knew exactly where to look for this, I would go find it. Actually, you know what? I'm True Poker Dealer. I should go look for this. So find the TDA rules, and let me not be lazy for a second and actually find this. Misdeals. All right. Not that one. Let's see. Okay, well, here's the answer. I found it quicker than I thought I would. Let me pull this up for you. No, wrong one. I gotta do this. Alright, so you can see, let me pull myself off the screen a little bit so I'm not in the way. So it says right here, so this is the TDA rules from 2019, and it says, in a misdeal, this is misdeals and foul decks, in a misdeal, the redeal is an exact replay. The button does not move, no new players are seated, and limits stay the same. Cards are dealt to players on penalty or not at their seats for the original deal, which is Rule 30. Then their hands are killed. The original deal and redeal count as one hand for a player on penalty, not two. Let's see what 30 says. At your seat and live hand. So it's literally addressing this exact thing that you're saying, and it's saying that if you're not within an arm's length of your cards by the time you get back to the table, this is TDA, so a house might treat this differently. They're saying that the hand is dead, but I will tell you this: there is no chance that that is done properly 100% of the time. I guarantee you that sometimes a player gets dealt in and keeps their hand for that. It's just the nature of this type of a very, very detailed, intricate rule being applied in poker. So don't feel bad if you mess that up, because you're not the only one who's messed that up, but this is the rule, and this is the correct way according to the TDA rules to do it. So there you go. Let's see. Now I must enlarge. I hate that the light's no good here. All right. So let's see, something new. Finally getting hired at a casino, day shift or night. Depends where you are. Texas Card House in Dallas, Texas, day shift, the money's pretty good, so I don't even worry about it. I just say day. But a lot of the time the overnight money is better for night shift. But it's such a personal preference thing. If you're a night owl, night shift's cool. If you're not, day shift. If you got kids and a family, it's hard to see your kids and family if you're working night shift, so probably day shift. You know, kids are at school during the day, you're at work during the day. If you're at work at night, you're going to see them a lot less. That can be a very difficult thing for people. Hit Girl says, I'm in an underground room, but we try to run as close to casino as possible. Yeah, honestly, I could already tell that. It almost sounds like you're a legit room, the way that you do things. It's very impressive. I don't know the name of the room that you are at, but I think people should play there, assuming it's legal. But I don't know. Canada laws are different, so I'm sort of outside that box. But our shirts are polos, etc. No shady stuff, but I do get to crack inappropriate jokes. Well, you can do that in a regular casino until you get fired. Gary says, Peter, what location? Peter, any advice for first-time professional dealers? Yes. Peter says, Arizona, Desert Diamond. So I think that's where Zach works. He's a nice guy that I used to work with a long time ago, and he just, I think, got promoted to either dual rate or floor supervisor. And I would say ask him questions if you want. He's a smart guy, nice guy, been around for a while, and a friend of mine. Tell him I say hi. But let me see. So first-time poker dealers, the simplest advice that I have for you is do not try to go too fast. And while you're dealing, work on one or two things at a time and turn them into habits so that they're memorized and simple for yourself, and then move on to the next thing until you feel really good. It takes time to get your speed. Don't feel rushed by the players. Don't let them rush you. At the same time, they're going to try. You're not going, it's going to take you 6 months to be good. 2 months if you're unbelievably quick at it. A year if you're somewhat normal, right? So don't expect to get in and know everything, right? They taught you enough to pass your audition. They didn't teach you everything that you need to know. If you make a mistake, which you are going to make many, be humble about it and understand that it's a part of it, and the rules are designed to do that, to handle situations where you make mistakes. Call your floor if you're not sure. Call your floor if there's something that needs to be handled. Do not fix your own stuff. Do not ignore integrity of the game of poker. Just learn as much as you can. Don't worry about your tips. Just keep learning. That's really what my advice is to start out. And it's going to feel uncomfortable for a bit, but you're going to get through it, and it's going to be fine and fun, and pretty soon the money will be good. And work on your habits. Figure out what your habits need to be in order to improve. And, I want to say to watch other dealers as you're tapping them out to see what they do, but at the same time, know who to watch. Also, ask questions to other dealers in the break room. It's a great opportunity to learn. Great opportunity to do a lot of stuff. And then the last thing I'll say is make friends with people. There's a lot of really cool people that work in poker rooms, and care about that, because you never know 10 years from now where somebody's going to be. The GM of Texas Card House in Dallas is someone who I originally, about 10 years ago, hired as a chip runner. He had auditioned for Poker Dealer. We didn't have a lot of spots. We gave the Poker Dealer position to someone that was a very experienced dealer, and this particular individual was fresh out of school. And we were like, you know what, we like you, come on, be a chip runner. And then he ended up getting to be a dealer, and then he ended up becoming dual rate supervisor dealer, and then he ended up moving to Maryland, and then he ended up being the director of a room in Maryland, and then he ended up being the GM of one of the rooms. And I'm skipping some steps, but just help people, be friendly with people, and you never know what the people that you're working with now are going to be doing later. So a lot of people in poker rooms, enjoy that. And just, focus on integrity, focus on your core dealing skills and foundation, and just build on it. Day says, Hit Girl, how do you manage the socials, as in getting enough players to play? It's a good question. I'm actually curious about that too for underground rooms from a theoretical standpoint. Gary says, I bet both shifts are similar. Some are very different, actually. The Necrons 100 says, thank you. You're welcome. Night for more tips. Right. Gary says, they are not eligible if I remember correctly. They're not eligible. That's right. Hit Girl says, at day. Ooh, so we get some cool answers here. Let's see. Getting the players consistently will be the most work. It's a lot of reaching out consistently. Once they know it's the place to be, it gets easier. We post deets in a Facebook group. We went from scrounging to get people to having wait lists, but it's the consistency and effort. You may have a lot of weeks where the game doesn't go, but don't give up. Hit Girl, it's the most important aspect of a successful underground club, I would say. How many tables do you have at your place, and how many did you start with? I'm reading all this because I'm interested in it too. If you've already read it, just bear with me. Hit Girl, maybe have 3 or 4 people you can count on as starters who would love to have a game go. Most people don't want to wait around, so they'll call to see if the game is going, and if not, we'll stay home. So I've worked in a poker room that didn't have a ton of business, in a casino poker room, and we had to sort of create a vibe where people enjoyed sticking around and hanging out until the game started in the mornings. We tried all sorts of things. We tried giving them food. We tried giving them money in the mornings. I know somebody told me for about 8 months or so, there's a casino in this area in Oklahoma that used to pay people $25 an hour comp time from the hours of like 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. just to get games going every day. I'm not saying to do that, but that's what they were doing in order to make the rest of the day profitable. So maybe you could do something like that where you're just giving them all kinds of stuff. But I think having people want to come in and chill there would be really valuable too. So I thought maybe that would be cool. Having some people be starters. The underground room that I was at, they had a few people that anytime a player came in, they would get up and give them a seat. But if there weren't enough people there, they would sit back down and play again. They call those props in regular poker rooms. Joel says, bad beat at Palm Beach Kennel Club is 360,000 plus in multiple straight 2 games or running open to close. Any expertise on efficiency, game speed on that specific game worth sharing? You're talking about from a dealing standpoint? Yeah, from what like perspective are you asking? You're asking from the dealer's perspective, from a player's perspective? That's a pretty big bad beat. Those straight 2 games, oh God, they're brutal. I'm sorry, they just are. Like going in there to try to hit a bad beat, I don't think you're gonna beat the rake long term, even with a bad beat up that high for the record as a player. But people love the idea of winning that type of money. Straight 2 game speed, it's like just keep following the action is the thing that comes to mind for me. I used to floor in a room that had straight 2 with a bad beat and stuff like that in South Florida. Palm Beach Kennel Club is in South Florida, by the way, the northern part of South Florida. Just get the cards out. It's tough too, because if it's a bad beat, it gets watched. Let's see. Yeah, I'm curious more about as an elite dealer. I mean, for me, if I'm dealing that straight 2 game, I'm hyping up things like we're gonna get it, guys. Just stick with me. I'm bringing that energy so that they're all locked into the game, right? I found that when I deal, at the Hard Rock years ago, there used to be like $1,000 high hands and stuff like that. There still are. I just don't deal there anymore. But when I was there and participating in stuff like that, I would bring that high hand energy, and that actually does get people more locked in instead of doing other stuff because they feel like, oh, we are going to get this with this dealer. It's a little bit of a psychology trick, but it's also more fun to be around people that have better energy anyway, right? Like being at the poker table, they're just like, no. Like at Texas Card House recently, I would sit at the table and I would tell people like, I really feel like I'm going to deal a bad beat soon. It gets them more locked in, And with that 360,000 that you're talking about at Palm Beach Kennel Club, just get them locked in. In order to get things to go as fast as possible, the dealer can do a lot of stuff, but the players can contribute to it a ton as well. So that's sort of where my mind goes, because I know my skills. I can go, fast. It's like as soon as the river's out, I'm taking the burn cards, putting them in the muck and stuff like that. Although it depends on what the rules are there, because they might verify the burn cards in order to ensure that the bad beat's correct, and then you don't want to do that. So I don't know exactly how it's required to deal. I'd be very careful to do shortcuts at a place where you could null a bad beat for goodness sake. But hopefully that's helpful, and thank you for that question. How many chips to prepare starting new where I plan to offer 1, 2, and 2, 5 only for now? You want to calculate how many chips are going to be on each table at your worst case scenario, how many chips are in your drop or your trays, and just sort of plan out where all the chips are going to be in your absolute worst case scenario and purchase for that. Gary says, we're hiring in Columbus, Ohio if any dealers are looking for a change. I've said this before on your show. Pitch, 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 shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Cut checks, cut checks, cut checks. Practice is best. Columbus, Ohio. I've heard decent things about it out there. And do you guys offer a course for people? Like, I know I have a course on YouTube and on Truepokerdealer.com where people can learn how to deal, but a lot of people like the in-person course as well. And in Ohio, because it can be hard to get people to move there to deal poker, sometimes I've heard that there are rooms that offer free courses for like 8 weeks. So I guess I would ask, like, do you guys offer a course out there that people could go and just get trained? Because that'll get people there. Hit Girl says, we run in Canada. We run mostly one table each night we're open. We consistently get 2 on Saturdays now. We have a third, and that's all that would fit in our room. We have like 5 racks of $1, 8 racks of $5, 3 of $25, and 1 of $100, and some $500 and $1,000 plaques. But I don't drop ones, so you may need more ones if you do. Let's see. Thanks for the advice and appreciate it, Hit Girl. Yep. You guys going back and forth in this is making me happy. Like, people are learning important stuff here. That makes me happy. K-Lub says, hey, Mark, I started working at a card house a few months ago and started dealing last week. They recommended your how-to videos. I watch your videos probably. It's awesome that you're still on YouTube and now doing live streams. Yeah, I appreciate that very much. I am happy to be back here. It's sort of funny disappearing from YouTube for 7 years, but a lot's changed on YouTube since then as well. And big shout out to YouTube for making it easy for me to be back here and offer something cool like a course for everybody where it can be rewarding for me and I can help people get jobs. I appreciate your thanks. I appreciate your watching my stuff and liking it and learning. Hit Girl, we had a Plinko bonus for a couple months to help fill the table. So if the table fills at the start, the high hand of the first hour gets to play Plinko, and we had different prizes. Stuff like that's pretty cool. The underground game that I was at, they had little toy cars that the owner of the place would sometimes toss into a pot, and the car would be worth a 15-minute massage, which I won one of the cars, and I asked, so who does the massage? And they said, anyone you want that's here. I'm like, and they tried to get there was a really nice guy with blonde hair. They wanted him to give me a massage. But I asked one of the waitresses to do that, and she was very nice and good at it. Let's see. So maybe like free massages for the first hour. I don't know. Or splash the pot with stuff that doesn't cost money, right? You do want to remember when you have a poker room, period, it can be underground or regular, you have staff that if you can do giveaways that don't actually affect your business at all, right? You don't have to give money away all the time. Sometimes people want other stuff. I've been, this is really interesting to me. I'm curious what the response will be here, but I have been exploring there's an entire profession that I've recently learned about called professional cuddling, and it's sort of like therapeutic, and also there's like intimate contact with it and stuff like that. And I've been thinking poker players might love this, and so I reached out to a professional cuddler, and it turns out that she used to do this in Vegas, makes a lot of money doing this in her life, and she's had a lot of poker players who have done this. So maybe you can offer professional cuddling in the morning for people that are waiting. I don't know. I'm just throwing this out there. It's so much work to do anything, but it would be cool in my head at least to open up like a professional cuddling. By the way, this is entirely non-sexual, just to say that. It's more of a therapy than anything, where you get cuddling and someone like, is willing to talk to you like a therapist would almost. I think the whole thing's sort of fascinating, so I'm talking about it. But let's see. By the way, I am way outside the box in life, and I'm super comfortable talking about things that most people consider to be ridiculous and funny, and I'm just like, I don't care. I'll talk about whatever I feel like talking about. Gary said, free class starts next week. Okay, so that's really cool. So let me see. 4 weeks, 4 hours a day. That sounds reasonable. Day says, learning illegal stuff, you mean? Gary says, LOL. Joe says, we lost connection there for a while. You're probably wrapping up soon, dang. Well, welcome back. Hit Girl says, wow, that's a great idea. We've hired a massage therapist for our PLO this Saturday, so it's a super cool idea. Yeah, I liked that they did that. She's talking about throwing a car in for a massage, for like a 20-minute massage in some pots. And the owner put it in right at the beginning. So it was there sort of from the get-go. Joel says, I'll keep that in mind and deal it straight flush over straight flush on the flop Thursday night. You'll be invited, all expenses paid, to the party following weekend. I appreciate that. I'll show up. Celebrating a dealer at a keep your own place that deals a $360,000 bad beat. That's a pretty cool party. I'm in. Gary said, talking about promo money, too many dealers talk about promos as giveaways. It's the players' money. We're redistributing. And laughing. Joe says, cuddling. Yeah. You know, it's funny, talking about the professional cuddling, like the seriousness with which they are non-sexual is really intense. And at the same time, cuddling is very intimate. So I just... There's a space for this in poker. I fear that poker players wouldn't want to admit that they're doing this, but I mean, pretty girls that are willing to cuddle you and talk to you about anything you want, and like it's an interesting thing. It's sort of like getting a massage, but it's just a different thing, right? You know, if a guy's love language profile is like quality time and physical touch, I feel like that might be a home run for the business. Hit Girl says, I've almost dealt our bad beat every shift for the last 4 years, so it's definitely going to pop soon. At Texas Card House, we had Brad Owen and Andrew Nemi come in recently, and they were playing in a live stream game on a Tuesday night like 3 weeks ago, and it was a 5, 10, 20 no limit, and the bad beat popped while the live stream was going on, like right as it started, for like 50-something thousand. And at Texas Card House, it's entirely house funded, actually, which is really hard to find. They add a little bit to it. They make it really hard to hit, and they put purely house-funded money into it, which is sort of cool. It's cool working there. I think it's probably up to like 20 grand or so by now, again, as the backup. But it's interesting. What is the qualifier for the bad beat that's 360,000? What do you need to get in order to hit it? Joel says, true, Gary, $2 of every pot over $20 goes toward high hand bad beat. Yeah, exactly. That's why I say it's like, you know, there's so much money coming out of these pots. It's interesting. I also like what Texas Card House did for their bad beat. They require 20 big blinds. 20 big blinds must be in the pot in order for it to qualify. And what that does is it gets rid of a lot of these tiny rake games that pop up, which I think is pretty smart, actually. But let's see, what else are we covering? All right. Whew, we've been on here for a little while. It's been an hour and a half. I'm starting to tire out a little bit. I will be doing an interview probably next week, possibly the week after, with actually, I think I'm probably going to have back-to-back interviews for my next 2 live streams. It's possible that my next live stream is going to be interviewing the TCH commentary legend Greg Potter at this point, and it's possible that that's going to be 2 weeks from now. So take a look at my channel and you can see, I'll put a thumbnail up there soon with that. It's also possible that this coming week I will be talking with poker pro / poker dealer Michael Lockey, who is someone that I'm close with, and we discussed potentially doing a live stream where we go through all of the things as dealers that we want to just tell the players. We might go through something like that. For example, as a poker dealer, listen, if you're a poker player and you do this, stop, okay? As a poker dealer, I appreciate every tip so much, but please stop putting it on your cards when you push your cards forward. Why? Because you create an extra step for me. Instead of being able to take your cards with the other stuff like I normally do and take the tip with the other hand, I have to first remove the tip, then take the cards. You're slowing me down. Stop it. Stuff like that is what that conversation might be. So I might do that interview soon. It'll happen at some point is why I'm saying it either way. Joel says, quad 10's beaten, both cards in hand, must play, minimum $10 in the pot. Makes sense. Gary says our casino redistributes $200,000 a month in promotions. Yeah, that's not uncommon. It's common is what I'm trying to say. Joel says if board is queen, 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 jack, jack, Jack Jack versus Ace Queen is no good. Why? According to what you said, all right, quad tens has to be beaten. Both cards in hand must play. Minimum $10 in the pot. So if there's 3 queens on the board and 2 jacks on the board, and someone has pocket jacks, they have quads with both of their hands playing, or both of their cards playing, and the ace queen has both of their cards playing. Okay, must have a pair in the hand for quads. Got it. Day says, what are your thoughts on sufficient amount of chips to start up an underground poker club, mainly 1-2 and 2-5 only? So, I mean, for me, it's the same type of calculation. I did this with a room manager that was opening a room recently. It's you're imagining how many chips each player is going to have. I'm giving you the way to figure it out. You imagine how many chips each player is going, how many chips each player at the table is going to have at your worst case scenario. So let's say that each of them has at a 2-5 game 500 in red, a stack of white, and you say 1-2 and 2-5 only, a stack of white, 1,500 in green. I can get pretty deep actually. $2,000 in green, worst case scenario, and then maybe 2 stacks of black and some pink chips. I mean, the pink is the $500, and then you fill the wells with chips for your worst case scenario for how many chips you'd have there, and you fill your tip boxes with chips, and you fill your drop if you have a drop with chips in this hypothetical, and then you fill the chips for the waiting list. So it would just be doing that calculation, figuring out based on how you're going to be running your room how many chips you need based on where the chips are going to be, and you order that. Gary said, is Mike mean poker dealer on Twitter? I don't know. Stop putting... Oh, Mike, no, he's not. Stop putting your straddle on the button. Let me see. How do I feel about that? Yes, that's incredibly annoying. Putting out anything on the button is always annoying. Stop it. Yes. It's an extra step every single time. Like, here's the thing. It's in every single player's best interest to make the game go faster. More hands is better for everybody. So... Well, I guess except for the losing players, but, whatever. So doing things where you add an extra step by putting something on something is always going to slow the dealer down. Plus, the dealers have their habits, and when they can't do their habits, it's like, let's see. Joel says, must have a pair in hand. Hit Girl says, Gary, yes. Stop putting your straddle on the button, on the actual button. Must have a pair. Apparently, 20K for chips. Let 100s play at first. Bills. I mean, for an underground room, yeah, you could let $100 bills play. If you wanted. Also, don't expect to have the whole thing be perfect when you start. Be very focused on improving, right? This is the same thing for a new dealer as it is for a new room. Texas Card House is a brand that's been around for years now, but when they open a room in Dallas, there's a unique audience and unique circumstances that come up based on the space that they chose and all this other stuff, and you got to keep improving, right? Get that feedback and keep improving in order to make it a well-oiled machine that people like coming to. So I am going to wrap it up any minute now, so I'm going to let you guys get your last couple of questions in here, and anything that pops up I'll get through. And then I'm going to jump off and probably take a nap because talking nonstop for an hour and a half is tired for this introvert here. It's tiring is what I should say. Hit Girl says, we don't have wells at our tables. Floor gets all player chips, and I keep dealing as the room is small. I'd be interested in learning how to manage a well just to know. Cool. You do have access to that. So you show up as green with the symbol next to that, and that means, which I've known this, that you're a member on my channel. You're someone who's joined my channel, which thank you for that. You have access to the All Texas Hold'em Lessons course, and you could watch those videos and you would literally learn how to interact with a bank and all that stuff. It's like I teach all that stuff right in there. Those videos have helped a lot of people, so I would suggest that if you haven't gone through it. Gary said, focus on getting action gamblers. If your game is rocks, it will sink. I think you got to just start with people, period, though. But, I mean, you're right. They said, thanks for sharing everything, sir. Well, you're welcome. Thanks for coming to me and coming to True Poker Dealer and asking this stuff. And do reach out to me in an email. I'd be, happy to share some more stuff about what we talked about. But yeah, so thank you guys for coming on here and spending some time. And it's been cool. This has been really interesting, thinking about home games and stuff. Underground games and stuff like that. Let's see. Joel says, to make a qualifying 4 of a kind, the players' hole cards must be of the same rank. I like it. Hit Girl, I look forward to this every Tuesday. I appreciate that. Gary said, enjoy your nap. I like that too. And Hit Girl, thank you to you for all your answers from a place of experience. I am not somebody who thinks that I know better. You running an underground game makes you definitely more experienced than me when it comes to running an underground game and things that are related to that in poker. I also want to say you do sound like you're very knowledgeable when it comes to intelligent rule making and decision making for running a game, period. So I support your room. I would love to come and check it out sometime. I say that honestly. So thank you everybody for coming in, and I will let you know, Hit Girl, if I think of any tournament that really makes sense for you. Let's see, Joe W. Oh, something you might want to do, Hit Girl, would be the Venetian deep stacks that happen during the World Series and stuff like that. Instead of it being one entry, you might want to consider multiple entry prizes where people get 4 shots at, a $600 buy-in with $1 million prize pool or something like that. Give them 4 entries to tournaments like that. Something like that could be cool. Joe says, cheers, Mark. I'll watch it watch it all tomorrow. Our monthly poker game here in the club, we have to limit the winnings to €100 per night to stay, or no, that's probably £100 per night to stay in the UK. Law keeps well. Oh, cool. Interesting. Hit Girl says that's a great idea. Well, I'm happy. Yeah, multiple entries where there's possible big hits. Good times for sure. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you all coming here. Sorry that you got cut off for a while, Joe, but it's here for you. You guys are great. Thanks for putting up with my dim lighting as it started to pour here, and see you soon.